Welcome to the Garage Audit. My name is Ivan, and this is Thor Media. Today we're in Amherst, New York, suburb of Buffalo, and we're going to be visiting Loupe Detailing. Andy and his team have been detailing for a number of years. They have a really nice shop. Let's go in and take a look.
Let's go meet Andy with Loupe Detailing.
Hello there.
Andy, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Excellent.
Nice to meet you.
Let me hand you a microphone. That way everyone will be able to hear you. So, do a tour.
Okay. So, simple front office, obviously sitting area. I try to put PPF and window tint there so I get a lot of questions on it, because it seems to be, even if a customer comes in for the most basic of service, they always look at that and they go, what's that? Right. So I get to explain it and just give an offering. Back here, just more office space, and then my plotter. As you can see, we do window tint and PPF here. So pretty simple office in here.
Yeah.
Want to go in the actual shop?
So the calm after the storm?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is, when your employees come in the morning, this is what they see?
Yes.
Excellent. So nice and organized, nice and, everything in its place, which I love. So just quickly go around the room, see what we have, and you can explain why you did things this way and what has been done. So AR 630?
Yes.
675?
Great pressure washer, high power draw. So I actually have mobile units too. I decided this one stays in the shop because it's a lot for a generator to run.
Good.
Good flow rate. You've already had to adjust it though.
Yeah.
Because I ran it just out of the box, kind of hot. But
excellent.
Yeah, I just want everything is a wash bay over here. 50-foot cord can reach over here to the second section if needed. And then, as you can see around it, we needed more light. I decided to paint my walls half black, half white.
Right.
Which was the idea for correction. Might have hurt myself in one way because now I do obviously mostly general detailing.
Yes.
You don't see as well, obviously, because it's not reflecting light on the bottom anymore.
No.
So I had to add auxiliary lights on the garage door and then the wall here.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, I've always liked lights in the garage door because it's always a black hole in any garage I go to. Yeah. So that's a nice addition. And then chemical racks, you've got the Undercarriage Sprayer. We are in Buffalo, New York, so undercarriage spraying is a necessary evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seasonal, but yes.
Yeah, seasonal. You've got the Swiss tracks or equivalent on the ground.
Yes.
You have a floor drain as well.
I do. Center of the room.
Okay.
So I would say my only issue with these is the cleanup procedure. Yes. Because once again, we're in Buffalo. Salt, grime, and stuff builds up on vehicles, and when you wash it, it goes directly down.
Yep.
My concrete is not sealed. It is pitted, so all the stuff tends to stay in one spot. So you have to flush this out twice a year at least, otherwise it gets kind of smelly.
Yeah, so basically you have to take all the floor outside,
yes,
clean it.
Pressure wash it out there, and then bring it back in here. Okay. Yeah.
How long of an operation is that?
Takes half a day at least with like 3 people.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
No, it's
half a day's a production gun.
It's stinky. That's the biggest thing. It just traps dirt where it is. So
yeah. Then here you've got a lockbox for keys, controls for the lights, all your vacuum hoses, the air lines, everything hooked up. That's nice.
Yeah, try to keep it simple. Try to put things on walls and not on the floor as best as possible, just because it's not a very big shop. So it's a little over 1,000 square, I guess. So. Yeah. I need as much operating space as possible.
Good. Yeah, and there is enough space in here. You've got, what, maybe 30 feet wide? So
yeah, it's 30 by 40.
Okay, so, excellent. Then miscellaneous stuff on the shelf. The Eagle blowers, shop vacs. Do you use these? Are they, I noticed you've got airlines everywhere too. So
yeah.
For drying, do you prefer the blowers, airlines?
So I'm trying to get out of using the blowers a little bit. I realize that a lot of my employees like to use them as a crutch and try to dry the whole car with them. Yes. And that just adds a lot of time to the process. And to be honest, if these start going down, I'm just not going to replace them. Okay. So, because compressor works just as good to get the big seams out, and then everything else is towel dry. As you state, you leave at least a film on there if you don't actually hand dry.
Yeah.
I tell all my employees we're hand drying from now on. So don't focus on that or rely on it.
Yeah. Washer dryer, something that to me is essential in any detailing shop. Good. Then over here, you've got a conglomeration.
Yes.
So what's going on there?
That's just a quick drying rack. We never reuse drying towels per car. We actually wash them in
Okay.
between each car. So they're just kind of thrown there so we're not throwing a bunch of wet towels in the washer to break it, because that's
Okay.
just very heavy
Yeah.
when you do that, especially when it starts out. So we have everything divided here. We wash towels separately by their function to not cross-contaminate anything.
Good.
Little bit of a mess, but this is kind of just put together over the 2.5 years that we've had this building. So.
Yeah, basically you fill a need,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the need that you fill.
Yeah.
Over here, chemical rack, or compressor as well. How do you find this compressor?
Too small.
Too small? Okay.
I mean, the more you get into detailing, the more you rely on compressed air.
Right.
It does not do the job, or it's constantly running.
Yes.
So I'm going to probably have to get twice the size of one next. So yeah, that's the next upgrade.
I've always liked at least an 80-gallon compressor.
Yeah.
A good 2 or 4 piston head.
The unfortunate part is I can't set it anywhere else. It has to be in the same room. I have no other place to put a compressor. This thing is on the quieter side, and I know when I start getting into the 220 ones, the big guys, it's going to be a lot louder, so I'm going to have to figure out a solution for that.
If you're allowed to, because I know you're renting here, if you're allowed to drill a hole through the wall, you put the intake outside.
Yeah.
That cuts down the noise dramatically. And you can actually build a quiet box around the compressor that basically just sits up against the wall. If you need servicing the compressor, you just pull it away.
So would you, I mean, the whole breathability of it to keep it cool, would you have to have outside air cool it or something, or a fan on it? Because that's why I was told not to build a box around it.
Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
There are some liquid cool compressors. They're a lot more expensive. Those you just have to have the radiator exposed.
Okay.
Air cooled compressors, you can have a fan, but generally if that box is somewhat cooled from the outside, so it's drawing cold air in from outside, during the winter it'll be fine. During the summer you may want to look into it.
Okay.
We had ours in an 8-foot by 10-foot room, and in there we had pressure washers, we had steamers, we had the 2 compressors. It was always a hot box, but at the same time nothing ever overheated.
Okay.
So bulk chemical that you've pre-diluted so your employees don't have to dilute anything?
Absolutely. I do all the dilutions. It's easy to obviously make a mistake, and you want it done the same way. You want the same results every time.
Right.
You got to make sure they're mixed exactly the same every time.
And it's easier for the employee as well to just grab liquid from here.
Trying to make it less thoughts for them. So.
Yeah, exactly. The less an employee has to think, the happier they are.
Yeah.
Now you've got a large cart here, and then you've got a bunch of small carts there.
Yes.
What's the variance?
So I built this before I even had the shop.
Okay.
But when I was just like hobby detailing. So it was literally my detail cart. So I'd roll this outside in my driveway and detail out of this.
Okay.
As I needed, obviously, employees, and then I got the shop. It's expanded to that. I left this as a polishing cart, which I have my polishers, my heat guns for window tinting, shrinking, and such there. And then these are just kind of the wheel to your car carts, so you can operate from there.
Good. Big curtain in the middle of the room.
Yes, so that's my cheapest solution. I could divide both rooms so you can wash and do dirty things on one side and cleaner things like PPF or window tint on the other side without, all the contaminants going from side to side.
Right, excellent. Yeah, because window tinting and PPF, you almost require a cleaner. So
yes.
Okay. The small carts, they're divided by task or by employee?
These are by employee right now.
Okay.
I do intend to make task carts because I have 6 employees right now, and I do intend to get more when I have to run my mobile unit for this year.
Yeah.
So the big thing, I know people want a space they can own. They can put their own stuff.
Yeah.
I know they like that, but I have very limited space in here. That's why I bought these small carts.
Right.
They're very inexpensive. They're like $30 to $40 a piece, and they get the job done. But when you have like window tint and stuff and PPF, you do need a specific task cart with all the tools. Otherwise, you're putting them away somewhere else. You got to bring them out every time you have that job. It'd be nicer just to have a cart that already has it loaded, good to go.
Excellent. Now, drying rack for your decontamination towels, wash mitts, wash media.
Yes.
And then over here, you've got the clean towels.
Yes.
By the looks of it. In that cabinet is
ceramic coatings and other things I am hiding away, like polishes that would confuse everyone, because as you can see on the polishing cart, I made it a lot more simplistic. I have probably 10 different compounds polishes in there that I don't want them seeing anymore because it gets in their head. There's too many options. I'm trying to simplify everything, and that's why you're here to help me. So
excellent. The collection of ducks. Did you previously own a Jeep?
I did not, but we detailed one dealership Jeep, and they want everything out of it, and they don't want to see it again. They don't care
Right.
what the contents are.
Yeah.
My employees thought it'd be fun to just put them on there, and that's where they stayed. So
Okay, cool. And if you get a Jeep in, you can give them a duck.
we can give them a duck.
Right.
So I do want to say this. I'm tired folding towels.
Right.
There is absolutely no reason if they're dry not to just be able to throw them in a tote like this
Yeah.
versus nicely fold. Like some of my better towels are obviously folded up,
Yeah.
but this solution is just way better for me because we would spend sometimes 45 minutes a day folding towels.
The only thing I'm adverse to that
Okay.
for is when you're folding, you're inspecting the towels.
True.
So if you have someone that isn't inspecting and they're just folding, then yeah, that's perfect. But if you actually inspect your towels after every time and then grade them, that to me is the only disadvantage of that.
So I try to do that almost monthly. Go
Yeah.
through my towels as kind of an audit when I
Right.
notice that there's some stuff that won't come out of them.
Yeah.
You know, they get downgraded to a dirty job towel, engine bays and stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. The folding tables, more for PPF than anything else.
Yes, so I actually use this instead of a cutting board for window tint and PPF. I use actually a table. It
Right.
just was easier at the time. Once again, space limitations. I can always put a glass board and stuff on the wall as we get deeper into tint. That is
Yeah.
the idea, but it works. It's a smooth table, and that's honestly how I learned, originally when I was trained. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make terribly much of a difference to me at this point.
No, good.
And it's also where customer stuff goes when we're detailing a car and they didn't declutter.
Yes.
So it's out, open, visible, so they know if this table has anything on it, it's a customer's, put it back.
Yeah.
So,
Excellent. So if the table has something on it, it's a problem.
yes.
Ladders, a nice variety of ladders. I like that. You've got a taller ladder for RVs. You've got the smaller ones. They're all hung up. They're not laying around, which is great. I also noticed you have a platform on the other side there.
I do. Platform was the best addition. So ladders, you can drag around the vehicle, obviously, but they're not as stable when you're on top of the vehicle, and also you have to move it every like 3 foot. So
Right.
that actually gives you about a 3 foot run that you can go side to side. So you cover more without having to move as much.
Yeah, excellent. Then over here, just a nice bare wall. Probably a nice piece of glass going here.
Yes, eventually.
Yeah. I like the fact that you put rubber bumpers here just in case.
Yes, they do stick out, and obviously all employees know to watch before they open doors, make sure they can open them fully before they, even start detailing. Position the car right first, and
Right.
then you can start detailing.
Good. Again, second door. Now, between the doors, you've got 2 air lines, all the air tools hung up there, and a blower. Do you find yourself using that blower? Is it a useful tool for you?
For seams, yes. Once again, my employees tend to want to use it on the full car, and it just wastes time.
Yeah.
So it actually gets used more right now for big rubber mats, just to dry them off quickly.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
that unit moves a lot of air and works really effectively for that, especially when there's nooks and crannies you can't get towels into as easy,
No.
just to blow it out real quick.
Yeah.
I also find compressed air can tend to dry out rubber,
Yes.
so I don't like to use it that much on
Okay.
rubber mats.
Okay. And that generates a heated air as well. So-
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
If you give it like 30 seconds, it'll generate heat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I notice you have a lot of lighting up here. You have no employees in at the moment, so there's no point in having all the lights on.
Right.
If you don't mind turning them all on, just so people
Yes. The brighter, the better.
Excellent. So nice and bright. Maybe a little dark spot in the center here. That's the area where you have the most, or the lack of light. But other than that, you're good. You've got the traditional hex lights on the ceiling.
It's actually one of my partners that wanted those because he just saw them on Instagram, loved them, and I know they didn't add as much function as I needed them to because
Right.
I just need more light, but
Yeah.
they do look nice and customers like them.
Yeah, they do the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, the lighting on the wall is nice. I like that, especially on the door. Now, to prevent the door from going up with the light plug in, what have you done for that?
Besides signs everywhere and trying to put colored tape on there so you can brightly see that they're
Yeah.
still plugged in, over on the buttons, before you can even press up on them, they have signs that are laminated that say make sure the actual light is unplugged first because
Yeah.
of course it's happened that someone set
Right.
one of the doors up and then ripped one of the lights down. So,
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Good way of doing it. Any concerns with these lights?
They are meant for the ceiling, so they do have problems with water.
Okay.
So I am working on solutions. Some of these actually have PPF wrapped around them, which binds and can kind of like adhere to itself. It doesn't go to the aluminum on the back very well,
Okay.
but they go into actually holders. So I snap them in place, and they tend to stay.
Good.
I haven't done them all, so
Okay.
they still have an issue, but I have like the ground fault circuit in there, so they will click off and they won't do anything to the electrical system.
Good.
They'll just have to dry out and they can turn back on later.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't see an extractor?
No. So I tried to get out of extraction because that's obviously how a lot of detailers start.
Right.
You realize that that's where a majority of their time is wasted. So I try to do everything dry as much as possible, agitate with brushes, vacuum out first.
Yeah.
Then it's kind of more of a dry shampoo method that I've used if I got to get stains out. So just like, use your chemicals and then a clean terry cloth, and you can actually see what you're picking up.
Yeah.
And then just wipe it a few times.
Excellent. So great shop. You do have a steamer. Does it get used a lot?
Steamer is only for removal of PPF and window tint generally. I
Okay.
don't like to use it in vehicles. There's setup time, there's heat up time. And you can invest like $1,200 into those things and touch them like 2 times a year. So it didn't make sense. It's just taking up more space. So that's its only function now.
Okay, good. My recommendations for the shop, that island in the center, maybe try to reduce that a little bit. I know you can maybe fit 2 cars lengthwise in here. Not an easy thing. So it's not enough. One thing you could do though, if you wanted to, this might be a little thinking outside the box, but PPF jobs are here a little longer.
Yes.
If you were to extend your floor over to that section where you have the bare concrete and put a curtain this way instead of this way. So you bring the car in and using go jacks, so they go under the wheels, and then you can one person can push the car over easily. Then you have the car running that way, gives you a lot of space, and you can fit 3 cars in here easily.
Yeah. That would be a great addition because obviously we need more clean space.
Yeah.
We got to keep everything as far as like contamination-based work separate.
Right.
And we have such a small space here, it's very hard to work.
Yeah.
We're probably outgrowing this year.
Have how many at the moment?
I have 6 with the intent to hire more for the summer.
Okay, for the mobile operations. Yes. Excellent. Anything you'd want to change in here other than space?
Let's see. So the flooring, I probably would, if I could do it again, fix the concrete underneath because of the drainage issue. During the winter, you have 6 months where you really can't drag these things out and clean them.
No.
And my biggest employee complaint is when stuff like dirt and stuff just sits here, doesn't move, gets wet, gets dry, gets wet, gets dry. It can smell.
Right.
So fixing the floor first, having it milled down, and then probably sealed or something so it doesn't have all these little holes in it.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest thing. Beyond that, like the more stuff I can put on walls, the better. Just to get things off the floor, open up my space.
Good.
So everything I pushed against the wall as much as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know you hate tables for clutter. It's a necessary evil sometimes for when you're detailing interiors and people do not declutter their vehicle.
Right. No.
I need to put it somewhere.
For there, it's good. Yeah. One suggestion for the floor: next time you pull these out, if you can sort of pull them out on a Friday and stack them in one of your vans. Then on Monday morning, it'll be dry enough in here that you actually lay down a coat of paint.
Okay.
It's not going to last, it's going to last because you're not driving on it, but it is going to seal that concrete so the humidity at least isn't going into the concrete. It's at least staying between the two, and it'll make cleaning out the next time faster. And you can go to a hardware store and say, give me your mixed up paints. You don't care what the color is.
Right.
So they always have number of gallons of paints that they screwed up on the color, or the customer didn't like the color once it was mixed. Literally throw it on the floor, squeegee it down.
Would it have to be like oil based, like the thicker stuff, or?
Ideally, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But that might be a way of sealing your floor to make it a little better. The other thing is when you do get that smell, a bit of hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
So,
what would be the mix in a foam cannon?
Just straight in the foam can, and then lay it on and let it sit. And the hydrogen peroxide will help start breaking that down, and then rinse it out or rinse it to the drain.
Okay.
Other than that, in this shop, few too many chemicals, but you already knew I was going to say that, so
Yes.
that's not a problem. You knew I was going to say that too.
We're working on that.
Yeah. It's for employees, the least amount of chemicals you have, the easier it is. Like the fact that you've got the locked cabinet that says,
Yes.
this is Andy's stuff only.
Right.
And, you know, don't play with these. At least you've reduced that quantity. But the less amount of choices they have to make in the day, the happier they will be. What got you into detailing?
So this is the love of cars. Been detailing personal vehicles, family vehicles since I was 16, probably even a little bit before that when I had the Wax Master. Do you remember that? So it's just a little plastic thing my dad had from Sears.
Yeah.
And you would put like a putty knife and you would spread the wax on there, and then that's how you'd wax a vehicle.
Yeah.
I remember they had, it was probably like a early 90s Jeep, and the results before and after were that amazing. I'm like, okay, this is the most satisfying thing I've done at that age. So I had that interest, went different ways with my career because I was a data center engineer with Yahoo. So I went the tech field for a while, and there's always been that passion to do more things with cars. I was afraid if I got into the industry, I would stop liking cars because if you did it every day, you know, you might lose interest. So I kind of stayed away from it, but it drew me back in.
Okay.
So
good.
And it's just the amount of time that I do not look at screens because I'm working on a car is relaxing to me because my whole life I stare at screens.
Right. In the future, you want a larger building. What size are you looking for?
I would really like to have probably 4 bays, one being just a dedicated clean bay.
Yeah.
That really depends on how much I pick up for window tint and PPF, because I would like that to be stacked probably 2 cars in at a time.
Yes.
And maybe even designate one for tint, one for PPF, because then you can have your specialized tools that you need right there and then not have to carry things around.
Right.
I'm trying to get more efficient at detailing so I can get cars in and out faster.
Yes.
And that's where you're coming in. So that I think I could operate honestly on 3 to 4 bays itself, just for general detailing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Buffalo area is a very large car market. There's a lot of detailers here. What I really liked about them, because I've visited a number of them, they respect each other and they help each other out, which is something that I don't see everywhere. If you're in an area where the detailers are hostily competitive to each other, I want to try to change that. Get together for lunch once in a while. Do something like that. Mm-hmm. It's what I used to do when we lived in Quebec, and it was a nice way of getting to know them, first of all. And if you have a problem, if you have an issue, you have someone down the road that all your polishers break one day for some reason, you need to borrow a polisher or whatever. You don't have an extractor here. You get a job here that definitely requires an extractor. You can either borrow the extractor, rent it, or send the job to them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that helps. It's something that works. I know you use one of the other detailers to do undercoating for you when you have undercoating jobs. So things like that, you can trade services because not everyone does everything.
Yeah. I've met all local detailers, and I don't see them as competition because there's really enough work for everyone.
Yeah.
And we're all in little different areas. So, like, I'm in Amherst, and there isn't a direct competition here except Delta Sonic. So we're kind of in a good area for that. And I want to know everyone because we just bounce ideas off each other. Yeah. We share. We, like, talk about cars because obviously we're all interested in the same topics.
Exactly.
So, and as you said with undercoating, I outsourced that to them because I made a relationship with them at one point, and it's not a service I'm going to offer anytime soon, so I'd like to actually know the person doing it and send them to another local detail shop that's a small shop to support local.
Yeah, and for those wondering what Delta Sonic is, it's a large local car wash chain. They have about 30 locations in the area. Just about every detail shop we've been to, at least one of the employees or 5 has worked at Delta Sonic before.
Yes.
It's sort of a rite of passage in Buffalo, it seems to be. With that, thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you, Ivan.
All this information will be down below, and let's go to the bus for his final report card.
We had a great visit with Andy. He really needs a lot more space. He can find a bit of space on the inside, but not much. He's very organized, very well laid out. Like I mentioned, one thing he could do is make a 3rd bay by putting a car sideways. That takes a bit of effort, a bit of work, so may or may not be the best way of looking at it. Other than that, great lighting. Get rid of the black on the walls, please. And finally, reduce the number of chemicals being used. The less you have, the more efficient you'll be. With that, we'll see you in the next garage audit. If you'd like to have your garage audited, or your shop, or your mobile unit, please reach out to Jamie at the House of Rags. We'll be happy to set it up, and we'll see you down the road.